Hey everyone, God bless you on this feast of Saint Cosmas Etolos, this incredible recent equal of the apostles and evangelist. This is August the 24th, and we are remembering Saint Cosmas. And in the spirit of Saint Cosmas, I've entitled this reflection, The Great Awakening Orthodox Style. Most of you know what the historical referent is for the Great Awakening. If you don't, you can look at chapter 9 of my book, Rock and Sand, an Orthodox appraisal of the Protestant reformers and their teachings. That chapter is dedicated to America's folk religion, evangelicalism, and it has a whole section on the Great Awakening, kind of evaluating the positives and the negatives of that movement. That period of incredible religious fervor and revival, Protestant-style revival here in America that was so instrumental to the American Revolution, to supporting spiritually the American Revolution and following. Well, about the same time that the Great Awakening was taking place in America with the incredible outdoor preaching of John Wesley and George Whitefield, the preaching of Jonathan Edwards, the great American theologian. At that same time, in the middle of the 18th century, in European Turkey and Greece and Albania, what is now European Turkey, Greece, and Albania, the great Saint Cosmas was preaching. And let me tell you just a little bit about him before I make an application from his life that is particularly relevant to us. Saint Cosmas was born in 1714, and as a young man embraced the monastic life. He went to Mount Athos and became a monk of one of the 20 ruling monasteries there, Philotheu. He became a priest and a missionary. He felt a call from God to leave the monastery and to travel in poverty to preach the gospel in those areas where the Ottomans had decimated Christian populations. This was a shocking experience for him to feel this call. It was very similar, I would say, to other saints like St. Anthony the Great, who heard a word from the gospel. In St. Anthony's case, he heard our Savior's word, if you want to be perfect, sell everything that you have and give to the poor, and come follow me, and you will have treasure in heaven. And he did just that. For St. Cosmas, it came from St. Paul's first epistle to the Corinthians, I believe chapter 10, around verse 24, where St. Paul says, do not live for yourself, but for your neighbor. Let no one be concerned with his own good, but for that of his neighbor. That became the kind of inspiring call of St. Cosmas's life. And so he would travel and he would preach. He would come from village to village. He would come into the village. He would get the blessing of the local bishop to preach. He would often go visit the Muslim ruler and also ask for permission. He would then plant a cross in the middle of the town square and stand on a little podium and begin to preach. He would begin by asking forgiveness. He would say something like this, I'm a monk, and monks should not be traveling around. They should be in their monasteries. But I said to myself, I am one sheep. Let Jesus lose one sheep in order that he might gain many more who have been lost. In his context, it was lost to Islam. He said, let my own soul be given up if I might save my brethren, and perhaps, who knows, by their prayers I also might be saved. This is how he would begin his preaching. He would also say to the people that he was unworthy of preaching to them because he was the chief of sinners, and he knew that each of them was more valuable than the entire cosmos to God. He would then proclaim the great saving deeds of Christ and call people to be faithful to Christ and to seek him and to worship him. He would call them to faithful prayer every day. He passed out prayer ropes to young, old, children, adults, grandparents, teaching them how to call on Jesus' name and to say the Jesus prayer. He would call people to faithful attendance at church. Especially, he was a zealot for the Lord's Day, calling people to set aside their earthly occupations on Sundays and to give that day to hear the bells. He said, when you hear the bells, rise quickly and go to church and be there at the start of Orthros. Pay attention to Orthros and to the divine liturgy, joining your minds and hearts to the words of God so that you can be saved. In fact, he pushed very hard against the Jewish markets that were open in various parts of these regions, open on Sunday, and he forbade them to have commerce on Sundays. The Jews were very upset with this. In fact, his martyrdom took place by the Muslim ruler had him hanged in what is now Albania in 1779 on this day, August 24th, at the instigation of the Jews who were so angry that he was forcing them to turn their markets open only on Saturday and not on Sunday. He was such a successful preacher in winning people's devotion to God and in bringing back Christians who had compromised and had apostatized and made their Christian faith secret so that they wouldn't be punished by their Muslim overlords and wouldn't have to suffer second-class citizenship as dhimmi people. He won many of them back, so much so that he was considered by the church to be not only a saint while he was alive, but to be what he's called today, which is equal of the apostles. His hymnody, if you chanted his service this morning, you would see that his hymnody hymns him as an equal to the apostles and shows him as an example that the apostolic age is still here. 2,000 or 3,000 people would follow him from village to village. And many thought that he was perhaps the prophet Elias come back or the prophet Enoch come back to preach against Antichrist and to win many people to the Lord before the second coming. Just an incredible person. And I would encourage you, if you have never read his biography, there are a number of excellent biographies of St. Cosmas and collections of his writings, and particularly his prophecies. We have over 122. I think that's the number of prophecies from St. Cosmas about the future. One of them, which is very poignant and very upsetting, is that he prophesied that one day Christians would open the door to demons to come into their house from boxes with bunny ears. Remember, he was giving this before television came on the scene. Anyway, St. Cosmas. I want to make two applications to our life as we study this man who led the Orthodox Great Awakening of the 18th century, which was an awakening that led, in fact, to the recovery of Orthodoxy by the Greek nation and eventually to their move for independence and the War of Independence in 1821. That was very much built upon the spiritual preparation that had been brought to the Orthodox peoples in the Balkans, in Greece, in what is now Albania and Macedonia. These people were brought back to their faith and to a jealousy to be able to love Christ and to throw off the Ottoman Muslim yoke, which had been imposed upon them by this aggressive advance of Islam. 2 points I think are exceedingly relevant for American Christians today in the West. 2 emphases in St. Cosmas's life. One was his absolute commitment to re-evangelization, to the reality that a Christian people can lose its faith over time, especially in contexts where political oppression is applied to faithful Christians. Many who don't have a hot faith, their love for Christ waxes cold, and they find themselves drawn away from their Christian confession. And even if they don't want to formally embracing the faith of the dominant political pressure of their time, in this case it was Islam, and hiding their Christianity. So the whole reality of what became secret Christians in many places of the Ottoman Empire, he was addressing directly by a call to re-evangelize. He would preach the gospel in a simple but profound way. Many would have their hearts pricked by the love of God and the call to repentance and would return to Christ and not make their spiritual eternal decisions based upon just temporal pressure. This is very, very relevant for us today. We are seeing an incredible decline in the West of Christian confession. Not just in Western Europe, but now very heavily in America, where the political powers are so secular that to be a Christian is beginning to cost people dearly. And so they're making poor decisions. This is especially the case with the younger generations who are no longer identifying with Christian confession. and are more and more finding themselves in agnosticism, which fits very well with the pressure of the secular elites in America, who are making it very hard to be faithful Christians and threatening Christians in academia, in the medical field, in today and during the coronavirus everywhere, just forbidding worship and other things. These are hard days, harder days to be Christians, and the result is that many have fallen away from the faith, and the call of St. Cosmas is to re-evangelize, to preach the gospel, and to embrace the challenge that has been put before us. This is the time for us, priests and lay people, to join together with the leadership of our bishops and to engage in the evangelization of North America, to preach the gospel and to stop relating to our nation as though it is full of strong Christians, and rather to recognize what's going on, that we're in a period of great decline and leaving of the faith, apostasy, and it's time for us to preach the gospel just like St. Cosmas did. This is the fundamental call of this hour, and St. Cosmas is leading us there. And a second call from St. Cosmas for us, dear ones, is not just the re-evangelization to help people rediscover their Christian faith, but to build Christian schools and to abandon the secular education that we see. How does St. Cosmas model this for us? Well, St. Cosmas himself insisted on this. He was a great advocate for Orthodox Christian education. He started himself over 200 schools in villages and different centers in those areas where he was preaching. He said schools start churches and schools start monasteries. And dear ones, is this not the case that we must engage in a radical commitment to the propagation of Orthodox Christian education? We must start schools and no longer give our children into the hands of those who are secular propagandists, who are going to teach them that the church is evil, that the church is prejudiced, that the church is racist, that the church is sexist. We hear this as priests constantly because this is what's being pumped into the hearts and minds of our children in America's secular public schools. It must stop. We must no longer give our children into these hands, into these pedagogical hands. Instead, why not? Why not have a collaboration? Can you imagine this beautiful vision of having the 56 Orthodox bishops in this nation, that they constitute the Assembly of Orthodox Bishops in America, decide that they're going to have a common initiative to build and endow 4 or 5 schools, classical Christian schools, each year for the next 25 years, identifying 100 important metropolitan areas across the country where there is a high concentration of Orthodox Christians, and raising money together as a collaborative venture, laying aside our particular nationalist concerns about what's happening in Cyprus or what's happening in Istanbul or what's happening in Serbia, or leaving aside those as our number one concerns, and recognizing that our ability to support our mother churches comes from our strength in this country. If we let our orthodoxy dissipate, we're not going to be a help to anyone anywhere. But if we build ourselves up, if we commit ourselves to building these schools, we could have in 25 years strong Orthodox schools, 100 of them, funded by this initiative in the next 25 years. Forgive me, but that looks like a pretty great vision to me. This is the time for an Orthodox style Great Awakening, and on the feast of St. Cosmas, let's invoke his prayers to help us imitate his godliness in preaching the gospel and re-evangelizing our culture and building strong schools for our youth. God be with you. The Christian faith is the truth, and the truth does not change. Have you ever wondered if the faith that you hold or that your church confesses is the faith of the church 100 years ago or at the time of the apostles? We at Patristic Nectar Publications cherish and teach the faith of the one Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, the faith which has been believed by all people in all places from all times. And we invite you to come to our site and enjoy our edifying product. Especially we recommend for people from Protestant and evangelical backgrounds our offering Rock and Sand, an Orthodox appraisal of the Protestant reformers and their teachings. God bless you.